All right. What's up, guys? I hope you're doing well. James here from jamesdforesight.com. And I wanted to take a minute to go over a recent speech given by Fed Governor Lael Brainard about basically the FedNow service, right? So, this is something that they've been working on for quite some time, and they're finally about to kick off a pilot program or a testing phase, whatever you want to talk about it. And that's actually where she kind of gave this speech, was at the FedNow Early Adopter Workshop, right? And so, with that being said, we'll head straight over to screen share and kind of with relating to the title, right? And talking about central bank digital currencies. So, basically, FedNow is a service to where basically it innovates the payment structure for basically financial institutions, and then basically allowing like instant payments in a way. And so, it's kind of I have to look more in depth into, say, like the actual nuances of this system and how it'll work itself, or I guess the service, I should say, like how exactly is it working. But I've seen a few things to where basically it kind of almost negates a central bank digital currency in a way, or at least in certain respects. If you believe the I'm sorry, if you believe that a central bank digital currency would be, or the implementation of it is with good intentions and only the positive side of things, then FedNow seems to basically negate the use of said CBDC. However, if you don't believe that, then there's still obviously the negative side CBDCs in general that could be used. That would still merit its implementation, so to speak. But regardless, so basically, they should be ready to launch the FedNow service between May and July of next year, and so not even was it 8 to 10 months or so away. And so basically, saying brings an innovative core. Let's see, this innovative core instant payment infrastructure to financial institutions of every size across America. So it's supposed to be essentially all financial institutions. And these early adopters are a select few, obviously. Um, so American households and businesses want and deserve payment transactions that work seamlessly, reliably, and efficiently. We've talked about this when basically really diving into CBDCs, how they would work, the different kind of cost benefit analyses you could look at for pretty much all the characteristics you could think of, right? And so that's basically what you want from any form of, I guess, mode of transaction would be a way to say it, right? And so it's something you need to look for. And so the FedNow service will transform. Let me see if get my head out of the way, will transform the way everyday payments are made throughout the economy, bringing substantial gains to households and businesses through the ability to send instant payments at any time on any day, and the funds being immediately available to recipients to make other payments or manage cash flow efficiently. So basically, instant settlement, right? Regardless. And so it kind of, I guess, what comes to mind for me now is basically one of the arguments for CBDC is this instant payment structure, right? Instant settlement, right? To where you can immediately, there's no holding period, there's no nothing, right? It's you send something, it immediately goes. You don't have to wait 3 days like you sometimes have to do for an ACH transaction or something like that, right? And so it's sometimes 3 days, but anyways, there's no holding period. You don't have to wait for settlement, that kind of thing. And so that's one of the major arguments for a CBDC. But this is also what FedNow will do, right? And so it seems like this is basically on the back end for the financial institutions. And so it's not like a person, or it's not like a peer-to-peer basis like a CBDC could be. So it's kind of like a slow implementation of a CBDC, at least in that respect, and that's something to be mindful of. Um, Maybe it's kind of a Trojan horse, so to speak, for implementing a central bank digital currency, or kind of testing the waters in a way, it seems. or at least that's one way you could think about it. So, immediate availability of funds could be especially important for households managing their finances, payment or paycheck to paycheck, or small businesses with cash flow constraints, right? So, basically, you can pay your bills immediately, that sort of thing. Um, we talked a little bit about this in one of the CBDC videos, but basically, one of the major arguments is you could essentially pay your bills simultaneously, um, instantly, right? Even on like an hour by hour basis as you use, like, say, electricity, right? So, like your electricity bill, you could pay it on an hourly basis, so to speak, based on how much you use it. Sorry. Um, and it seems like basically they did a lot of this, I'm assuming through the cloud, because she describes it as our cloud first design, which is unique among central bank instant payment systems, our services, positions us for the future by enabling not only the throughput and scalability required for high volume retail transactions, but also broad geographic points of resiliency to ensure continuous service, right? So you need this resilient system in general, but it is something that apparently can withstand the throughput and be scaled to such a degree to basically be used for regular retail payments, which is another kind of thing that it's not like this will just be used for settlement between institutions, which is, I guess, because what comes to mind is why don't they just use like the bank reserves and everything with the reserve accounts, but not obviously not all financial institutions have reserve accounts at the Fed, and then that can kind of look into reverse and regular repos and that sort of thing, um, with the Fed as one of the counterparties. Um, I guess. Or I guess just between institutions, you don't even have to involve the Fed, obviously. Um, so it's a bit of me misspeaking. But, anyways, basically, it seems like it's another way, or could be another way, for that kind of instant settlement without maybe the institutions having to deal with, say, repo to try to encompass as many financial institutions as possible. And so this basically would be available to all institutions, it seems, rather than ones that are just eligible for to hold bank reserves, right? That are a part of the Federal Reserve System itself. So that are stockholders in a Fed bank and that all that stuff, right? So they've also invested heavily in stakeholder engagement to ensure readiness for service adoption through efforts like the pilot program, the FedNow Explorer resource, the FedNow Community, the Service Provider Showcase, and the FedNow Early Adopter Workshop, which is where this speech was given. So, to advance the goal of nationwide reach for instant payments, we have worked closely with the private sector RTP, which I'm assuming means real time payments, instant payment service, on message specifications to ensure alignment and support of routing interoperability. So, it's kind of creating our Fed now seems to basically create a public sector in a way. Um, Again, kind of dealing with the kind of blurring of the lines of the Federal Reserve and where they lie as a public slash private entity, right? And so there's that. And so kind of getting that involved there as well, and basically creating an alternate system to this RTP instant payment service, and basically making sure they're interoperable. So again, a CBDC kind of characteristic to where if you we talked about this a bit more in depth actually, where like the actual system or an infrastructure for a central bank digital currency would have to be interoperable with the current financial system, at least in the beginning, if in case of transferring everything over or in general. And then you also have to look at between different countries, things like that, because every jurisdiction is going to have a slightly different need. They're going to implement it differently, that sort of thing, right? And so the shift to real time payment infrastructure requires a focused effort, but the shift is inevitable. So the time is now for all key stakeholders, which are financial institutions, core service providers, software companies, application developers, to devote the resources necessary to support instant payments. So it seems like they're really pushing for this sort of thing, which is shouldn't come as a surprise considering they're starting basically a pilot program and testing it in the next couple weeks, it seems. Because I mean, she just says mid-September, and right now, as of this recording, it's early September. So maybe in the next couple weeks or so, they'll start that pilot program. And then basically I'll keep a lookout for where how it's going on between now and I guess May of next year at the earliest, and kind of seeing the development. Maybe they kind of keep pushing it off, or maybe it actually comes in on time. So, anyways, that's all I got for this one. And if you have any comments or anything, especially with kind of looking at the FedNow service as a kind of maybe a again Trojan horse in a way for a CBDC, please leave it below in the comments. Feel free to have a discussion and everything. That's the major reason for these types of videos, right? And so keeping that in mind. So with that being said, I'm going to leave this here. So I hope you guys have a good day, and I will see you on the next one.